Alright guys, so we're checking out the ANKER PowerHouse 767 portable power station in this video. So for those of you that are looking for a lot more capacity in your power stations, a lot more capabilities, the ANKER 767 here, this is the one to look at, and by far the largest capacity, at least the ones that I reviewed, at 2048 watt hours, or about 2 kilowatt hours. So a massively huge battery in here for ultimate off-grid use. So if you're going to be, camping, RVing for extended periods of time and need lots of capability in terms of power off-grid, this is definitely one you want to check out. If you're going to be want something at your house for power outages, etc. These days, the power grid is becoming a little bit more unreliable, and if you need something that's going to last you a little bit more time off grid with no power, this is one you want to check out for those times where you need emergency power backup. So as you can see, it's a very large power station, and you'll need these nice convenient wheels here to tow it around. It does come with this tow handle up here that pops out, so just press this button, slides out, and you can basically wheel it around like a suitcase. And just taking a quick look around the sides here, you have these rubber feet, so if you want to stand it up vertically, you can use these rubber feet to lay it down that way. There are rubber feet here on the bottom of this side here, so you can obviously lay it down horizontally. You got some exhaust fans and ventilation vents here on this side. Same on the other side, you've got some ventilation fans and exhaust vents over on this side. In the back, you've got the AC charging port for the basically the wall plug, and also an XT60 solar charging plug. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then the overload reset button. So if this you happen to overload the inverter, it'll shut off, and then you'll have to hit that little button to reset the inverter, and then you can turn it back on again. So as you know, I've been reviewing ANKER products in the past on my channel. The last ANKER power station I reviewed was the PowerHouse 757, which was the previous generation to this one. A little bit less capacity, 1229 watt hours in that one. Also, I reviewed a lot of their chargers and power supplies. This is a USB-C power supply that I reviewed previously, and you can see here it uses the GaN Prime technology, and that's also what this power station uses. So gallium nitride technology makes the inverter more efficient. So I believe this one is going to be around 80 to 85% efficient. So there's always going to be some losses when you're charging up other devices, and also those other chargers will have their own losses as well. So there's going to be some variability in terms of the efficiency, but generally speaking, you're going to be getting 80-85% out of this power station's capacity. So quickly, the rest of the stuff that comes in the package here, you do get the user's guide, very nice. You get this little case that holds the other accessories. So you have this XT60 solar adapter. This is for the, goes into the back where the solar plug is. And this allows you to plug in up to 5 solar panels. If you go with their ANKER's solar panel solution, which is a little bit different than the traditional ones that are out there. Those theirs is like a 60 watt panel, whereas most other panels out there are going to be either 18 volts, 24 volts, 36 volts. So this higher voltage panel that they have allows them to make 200 watt panels that you can then connect with this connector all together. So 5 of them in parallel, and you'll get a total of 1,000 watts. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I actually was charging up my electric vehicle, my EV, using the TT30 port, the RV port in the front, at about 10 amps, 1 kilowatt. So you could, in theory, take 5 of their solar panels at 1,000 watts, assuming you have ideal conditions, and then charge your electric vehicle off-grid completely at a very relatively slow rate of 1 kilowatt, but it's totally free. And if you're out camping, where there's a lot of sun, and you just want to charge up your vehicle, you could do that with this power station for sure, and their solar panels. So I also get a wall plug, of course, so standard AC wall adapter, pretty thick gauge cable. And then you get a car adapter here. So this plugs into your car cigarette lighter adapter. And the other side is the XT60 that goes into the solar input. And you can charge up the power station via that way. Most cars are going to be around 120 volts, 10 amps typically for US cars. I think some European vehicles are probably like 240 maybe, or 220. It really depends. Check your documentation on your vehicle, but yeah, this will charge up your the 767 via your car battery, and or obviously you probably want to be driving, otherwise this will drain down your car battery pretty quickly. All right, so let's take a look at the rest of the stuff here on the front. You have a light panel here up front, so you can turn this on. You have 3 different levels of brightness. And I believe if you long press this, you'll go into the SOS mode. You have this little button here, turns on and off the display. Got a button here, it looks like a little Bluetooth icon, so you long press that. That'll turn on the, let's call it the IoT radio inside, Bluetooth radio. Allows you to connect to the power station via their Anker smartphone app. And so you can control for example, the charge rate. The default charge rate on AC is 1440 watts. However, if you want to slow charge the batteries in here and perhaps conserve the health of the batteries, don't need to necessarily charge it super fast. You can adjust that in the settings of the power station, and you can also then control the different outputs here, like the AC output, the car slot. You can turn that on and off via the app. So for example, if this is like under a desk or somewhere where you can't reach the button necessarily that easily, you can then use the app to connect to the power station and control everything that's going on here, as well as look at all this stuff, the data, and that's going to be on the screen here. You can look at that on your phone as well. There's this power saving button here. If you turn that on, the light green light here, little icon here on the screen showing it's conserving energy. So what that does is, if you're using the AC, for example, the AC section here, or the car socket, either one, and you have devices plugged in, for example, and maybe it's charging up another device. Once that's done charging, it's full, it's going to stop drawing power from the inverter or from the DC section. However, because these are on, they still draw a little bit of power, and it's not a lot, but it will drain these batteries just because these happen to be on. So what the power saving does, if you turn this on, is once whatever devices are plugged in here are done doing whatever they're doing and everything shuts off or just stops drawing power, it'll actually turn off these sections after about 30 seconds of no power draw. So you want to use that if you don't want these to be draining power continuously. However, for some devices, you may need to have these on. For example, they will turn on for a little while, then turn back off, and then turn back on again. If they do that intermittently, then you want to actually not use the power saving function, and it'll keep these sections on for your use. Okay, so the AC section here, 120 volts at 20 amps for all of these different plugs. So you have your standard, this is actually a 1520 type plug, 120 volts at 20 amps for these, and it is shared 2400 watts total on the inverter. So it does have the capability of bursting from 2400 watts to, I believe, 3200 watts, and it does that through a trick. You basically reducing the voltage while being able to increase the wattage. Now, most devices will not have a problem with that. It should be okay, but just keep in mind that there's some devices that might be more sensitive to the voltage being dropped and may not function correctly, so be aware of that. Now over here we have what's known as an RV plug. This is actually a TT30. So in theory, this particular plug can go up to 30 amps, but this whole inverter can only go up to 20 amps and 120 volts max. Obviously the 2400 watts. So just keep that in mind, that is not 30 amp service, although this plug can go more than 120 volts, typically like in a sort of campground setting. But if you have like an RV and you're off grid and not at a campground, you can use this to power up devices inside your RV using this plug. It's the TT30. things like air conditioners, cooking devices, that kind of stuff can be plugged off of this particular plug. Now later on in this video I will show you using this plug and an EVSC level 2 charger. I am able to charge my electric vehicle, my EV, through this power station to get an additional 2 kilowatts. For example, if for whatever reason you happen to have this charged up in your car and you ran out of range and you maybe you've just miscalculated, you can get a few extra miles out of this 2 kilowatts in your car using a level 2 charger and an adapter. I'll show you that here later in the video. All right, so this is the car socket section. You get 2 ports here, typical cigarette lighter ports, 120 volts at 10 amps. So that's going to be 120 watts total output here out of these, and that's shared. And here are the DC output sections. So we have 3 USB-C power delivery ports, 100 watts each. So very nice. I was testing all of these ports and just trying to max it out. It's basically pretty tough to max out this power station. Almost impossible unless you're on the AC section, you're putting in multiple 1,000-watt devices. If you do that, then you can, of course, trip the overload protection, because obviously once it exceeds 2,400 watts for an extended period of time, it can go over that for a short amount of period of time. But if you extend that for a long period of time, it will overload the inverter and it will shut down. But you need like multiple high wattage devices to do that. I was not able to overload this on the DC at all, even at 300 watts total on the power delivery USB-C. Now these USB-A ports are only 5 volts and 2.4 amps, so just basically USB 3.0 standard USB-A. So the high power USB devices you want to use the power delivery ports here. So I did do some power draw tests here with some high power devices like a leaf blower. I was not able to get anywhere close to the 2,400 watts. I think my leaf blower was only like 1,200, 1,300 watts, maybe 1,500 watts, I believe. And you can use it for extended periods of time, of course, because at that rate, this power station from full is going to probably last you 1.5 to 2 hours, although, that's plenty of time for something like that. Even like things like a vacuum cleaner, at like 1,200 watts, no problem. So again, as I mentioned, if you want to overload this, you can, but you have to plug in 3 vacuum cleaners or something like that, and then of course it will overload. And of course the chemistry of these battery cells that are inside here, high quality, EV quality battery cells, lithium iron phosphate, much more in terms of longevity compared to lithium ion cells on a lot of other power stations. This comes, I think it's up to 3,000 charge cycles before it reduces down to 80% capacity. So that is a really long time. So basically you can charge this empty to full once per day, I think for about 8.5 years to reach 3,000 charge cycles. And after that, you still have 80% capacity, which is, a ton, 80% of 2 kilowatts, plenty of capacity still available even after 3,000 charge cycles, 8.5 years. It does come with a 5-year warranty. They do claim up to a 10-year lifespan on this. So yeah, if you buy this today and you use it quite a bit, even continuously, it's going to have plenty of life left. And basically, in a few years, probably something even much better is going to come out. So definitely, it's going to outlast your needs for sure. Now, if the 2,048 watt hours is not enough for you, they do have an expansion battery pack that you can add on, and there's a port in the back. You would just they plug that in and plug that into the expansion battery, and that gives you another 2,048 watt hours, a total of 4,096 watt hours, or 4 kilowatt hours of energy. So for those of you that are really looking for super long uses off grid, 4 kilowatt hours, that's going to be a ton. So you can just grab that battery, add that on, very easy to do, and get double the capacity. All right, so let's talk about the TT30 port and how I use this for charging up my electric vehicle. All right, so one of the things I think will probably max out this power station is charging my electric vehicle. I have a EVSC here This is a shock flow portable level 2 charger, EVSE, and I did a review on this already. I'll link that in the description. You're going to need this adapter. It's a NEMA 1450 to TT30 adapter. So this is the plug, or they call it an RV plug. That's on the front here. That's a TT30. It's a 120 volt, 30 amp service, and this is the only one that I've found that'll actually work for EV charging. There are other adapters that are cheaper, but for some reason they don't work. I think it has something to do with ground to neutral bonding or something like that. Not an expert on that kind of stuff, but I found that this one does work. So we are at, I'm charging up the power station here. The 767 is at 99%. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just start charging up my car. And it's going to probably take a while because it is still limited to 30 amps at 120 volts. So that's nowhere near the maximum rate that the car can charge on level 2 charging. So we'll have to see. I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take, and we'll go ahead and go to the car here and see what range it has right now. Also the number of miles it has. This could be something useful for, if you have this, in your car fully charged, maybe you solar charge it while you're camping, and you maybe run out of range or run out of battery on your car, you could potentially charge up your car with this and add a few miles. It's probably not going to be a ton. It's only 2 kilowatts. I'm not 100% sure how much that's going to be. That's why I'm doing this test. And let's go ahead and let's go turn on the car and see how much battery we have. Alright, so I am at 46% battery before charging and about 119 miles. So we're going to empty out the power station, the Anker 767, and see how much miles I get from the 2 kilowatts that's in the power station. Alright, it's going to unplug the power station from the wall. So I'm still at 99%, so it's not the full 2 kilowatts, it's something a little bit less. And let's go ahead and we'll plug in the EVSE. Plug this in here. And we got to turn on the AC section. So my EVSE is turning on here. I have it set to 10 amps. And you can adjust this current 10, 16, 20, 24, 32. Start at 10 and see how much power that draws, and I'll boost up, and I think eventually it will overload it. Okay, plugging in the car. And I hear the contactors clicking. You see the little blinking lights on the dash. The fans have just kicked in on the inverter. So we're drawing about 1100 watts. So you can see here stats on the EVSE, 121 volts at 9 amps, so 1.1 kilowatts. That is matching up with what we're seeing on the power station. So those numbers do match up. And here are the stats on the car itself. And saying at 46%, 1.1 kilowatts, and to get to 70%, it's going to take 18 hours. But the battery will run, the power station will run out of power well before that, I'm certain. All right, so now let's try 20 amps. So at 20 amps at 120 volts, that's going to be the maximum 2400 watts rated on the Anker 767. I have a feeling that there's going to be a little bit of overhead and it might trip, but I guess we'll find out. So just a little brief amount of testing we did there. We went from 99% to 94%. Okay, plugging in. Charging here. 20 amps, 19 amps. And the fans are really kicking up on the power station now. Very loud. 2251 watts. So far so good. 2.3 kilowatts on the EVSE. And in the car it's showing 2.2 kilowatts. So the next current setting is going to be 24 amps. And that is definitely going to be over the 2400 watts rated on here. This I did do that test earlier and it did go into the overload protection. So I'm going to leave it here at 20 amps, and it looks like it'll finish in about less than an hour. So I'll come back here after this is completely empty, and when this is shut off, and see how much miles are in charge or added to my car. Alright, so everything got shut off here when the battery died, including the EVSC. Went ahead and unplugged it from the car. Let's go ahead and turn on the AC section again. And not sure if it's going to let me. Doesn't look like it. Alright, so the charger, when the battery died, everything turned off, including the charger here. I unplugged it from the car. Let's see how many miles got added in terms of battery percentage. Alright, so it did go up a little bit, 46% to 48%. And I believe it was 116 miles before I started charging. So it's 124 now, so not a whole lot, but 8 miles. But, you know, if you're in an emergency with no range left, then 8 miles is better than nothing. Yeah, so overall, this is a fantastic power station for those of you that want a lot of capacity and you want to use a lot of high-powered devices. This is going to be perfect for your use. I definitely have been enjoying this power station and highly recommend it if you happen to be one of those people that fall into these use cases. It is available on the Anker site currently with, I believe, $400 to $550 off, depending upon other combinations of stuff you happen to buy with it, solar panels, etc., and a bunch of free gifts. So check out the website. The link will be down in the description if you want to check out the sale and the free gifts. You have to use my exclusive link down in the video description to claim those free gifts. Anyway, that's going to cover for this video. Got any questions, let me know. Talk to you guys in the next one.